The 80 Years' War in Europe had been ravaging for some time, and the Dutch Republic had been taking most of the Portuguese possession in Southeast Asia in 1600, and now aims to strike the Philippines to take down the Spanish. The Dutch and Spanish had previous conflicts in the archipelago, yet all have ended as victories for Spain. In 1600, Oliver van Noort's Dutch squadron was attacked by Antonio de Morga near Fortune Island in Batangas. Though the Spanish flagship San Diego was sunk, the Dutch were still driven out. In 1609, the First Battle of Playa Honda was won by Governor General Juan de Silva against Francois de Witert, while in 1617, in the Second Battle of Playa Honda, Joris van Spilbergen was defeated by Juan Roquillo at the mouth of Manila Bay. 1640 to 1641, Dutch corsairs tried attacking ships from Acapulco, Mexico, at the San Bernardino Strait, though a system of fire signals alerted them from the Dutch presence, thwarting the plot of the corsairs. The Dutch were confident that they could take out the Spanish in the Philippines since they already took Formosa from Spain in 1642 and know that the defenses in Manila were lacking and weak at this point. The state of the Philippines under Spain looked grim as the Spanish government had faced different threats and rebellions throughout the archipelago. Include the 1633 to 1641, where the Philippines experienced a series of volcanic eruption. A food shortage caused the population to suffer. In 1635, civil wars were made against the Sultan of Maguindanao, Muhammad Kudarat, also known as Sultan Kudarat. In 1639 to 1640, the Sangli Rebellion happened. In 1638 to 1639, Spanish trade ships traveling down the Acapulco-Manila route have experienced losses and wrecks, disrupting the trade economy. In 1642, raids by Dutch corsairs at the San Bernardino Strait and Cape Espiritu have intercepted relief force sent to the Philippines, while smaller vessels pillaged the Chinese trade vessels. In 1644, the newly appointed Governor-General Diego Fajardo Chacon, together with the Andalusian Captain Sebastian Lopez, arrived and found the defenses of the Philippines under strength, and he would order the two galleons, the Encarnacion and Rosario, under Visayan Captain Lorenzo de Orella y Ugalde, to gather new resources at Mexico. July of 1645, this small force arrived at the port of Lamon Bay in Mexico, where they were able to retrieve the needed supplies and also took the Manila Archbishop-elect Don Fernando Montero de Espinosa, though he would die due to hemorrhagic fever during the trip, which caused a damage to the Christian faith majority in the Philippines. In November of that same year, during the feast of St. Andrew the Apostle, an earthquake hits Manila, causing structural damage and killing many citizens. Then, on December 5, another earthquake would hit the capital again, completely leveling the already destroyed buildings, and its destructiveness will be felt on other provinces as it created fissures on open fields and caused the rivers near settlements, as well as the capital, to flood the area. The situation in the Philippines seemed grim and hopeless as the Spanish settlements are hit with devastating natural disasters and the continued raids by the Dutch corsairs, damaging the trade economy and the reliefs that the government relied on. At this point of time, the Dutch forces in New Batavia, also known as Jakarta, decided to launch their attack on the weak Spanish colony. Their forces will arrive in February of 1646 in Ilocos and Pangasinan, where they tried to get the support of the native population, yet the natives resisted, causing the Dutch to plunder their settlements. It will only be stopped when Spanish companies sent there, caused the Dutch to retreat. On the other hand, Governor Fajardo, realizing the desperate situation of the Philippines, he decided anyway to send the two old galleons, the Encarnacion and Rosario, though outnumbered, to drive off the Dutch. Before we get into the Battle of Naval de Manila, we need first to look into the forces of both sides and head officers who serve in these ships. The Dutch was led by Martin Gertrits Vries, who divided the Dutch fleet into 3 squadrons and would converge at Manila to attack the city. The first squadron came from north down to Ilocos and Pangasinan and was made up of 4 large ships and 1 smaller circular vessel. The second squadron came from Zamboanga and then up to San Bernardino Strait and was composed of 5 galleons and 2 fire ships. The third squadron, which were reinforcements to the previous squadrons, was put into it 5 galleons and 1 fire ship, though only 2 galleons and 1 fire ship were able to attack the Spanish. The Spanish, on the other hand, was led by Lorenzo de Orella y Ugalde, who had the 2 galleons Encarnacion and Rosario, a still being built San Diego, and a reservoirs in Manila of 4 brigantines and 1 galley. The 2 Spanish galleons waited at Mariveles, intending to attack the Dutch, but the enemy never arrived, so headed to Pangasinan, where the first squadron of the Dutch were conducting, or shall I say, stirring up a rebellion in the natives, as well as capturing Chinese trading vessels. When the Spanish arrived near the coast of Bolinao, they spotted the small vessel that was part of the squadron that quickly retreated into Lingayen Gulf, and after 1 o'clock a.m., 4 Dutch galleons together with a smaller vessel began to head towards the Spanish. Around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, both sides began firing at each other. Though outnumbered, the Spanish had outgunned the Dutch ships as they caused severe damage to their enemy. At 7 o'clock p.m., the whole Dutch squadron had been devastated and decided to disengage by using the darkness to their advantage. The Spanish tried catching up, but lost track of the Dutch at Cape Bogeador. The Spanish galleons were surprisingly suffered only a minor damage, though General Orella y Ugalde still decided to spend time for repairs in the port of Bolinao. During their stay, he was able to report of the victory to Governor General Fajardo, who sent new orders for him and his fleet to escort a galleon, the San Luis, from Mexico in the San Bernardino Strait, due to it being an important target for Dutch forces in the area. In mid-April, the second Dutch squadron led by Antonio Camp headed first to Jolo to attack the Spanish garrison, though they found the fort in the area abandoned, so they went to Zamboanga next, where they seized 2 of the 5 trading ships currently docked there. The Dutch then landed at Caldera Bay and tried assaulting Fort Pilar, but were driven out by Captain Pedro Duran de Monforte with 30 Spanish soldiers and 2 indigenous companies, leading to more than 100 casualties in the Dutch side. After the field attack at Zamboanga, the second Dutch squadron then sailed towards San Bernardino Strait to continue raiding vessels of the Acapulco-Manila trade route. On the other hand, the General Orella y Ugalde received news of the Dutch presence and readied the two galleons that were docked in Port Jacinto in Ticao Island. The Dutch would arrive on June 23, and after noticing the 2 galleons at the mouth of Port Jacinto, decided to lay a naval blockade and siege the port itself. General Orella y Ugalde will order Sergeant Major Agustin de Cepeda with 150 infantrymen to take an elevated area near the opening of the port to avoid any Dutch forces taking it and ambushing the Spanish galleons. Around 10 o'clock a.m., the Dutch would send 4 heavily armed launches to land and approach the hill, but were driven back by Cepeda's men after a surprise attack. The Dutch will then try to use their launches to force the Spanish galleons to waste their ammunition, yet it will fail and the siege continued on. The naval standoff lasted for 31 days, and on July 24, with the San Luis galleons still not arriving, Antonio Camp finally decided to leave the siege, thinking that the galleon probably went to another port, and then sailed towards Manila to wait for the other squadron. The next day, the Spanish galleons will leave Port Jacinto and followed the Dutch close behind. During the voyage of the Spanish galleons, Father Juan de Cuenca aboard the Encarnacion, under the command of General Aurelia Y. Ugalde, delivered a sermon to the men where he said that no men will be killed in battle and the Spanish will be victorious. The Spanish could finally catch up to the Dutch on July 28 between the islands of Banton and Marinduque. Before the battle began, Aurelia Y. Ugalde in the Encarnacion and Admiral Sebastian Lopez in the Rosario will say their vows to the Virgin of the Rosary, where they promise if the Spanish win the battle, they will do a feast in her honor, and all men will walk barefoot to Our Lady's Chapel at Santo Domingo's Church. The battle will start in July 29 at around 7 o'clock a.m. During the battle, the Encarnacion will be surrounded by the whole Dutch squadron, while the Rosario fired from the distance. While the ships fired at each other vigorously, the Dutch flagship will entangle with the Encarnacion, and before the Dutch crewmen will start a boarding action on the outnumbered Spanish, the galleon sailors will cut the ropes and free the Encarnacion. The Dutch will send one of their fire ships to attack the Encarnacion, yet was faced by heavy cannon fire, causing it to turn away and try to attack the Rosario, but again was repulsed by cannon fire, this time ending with the fireworks to ignite and burn the ship until it was sunk. The Dutch will leave the battlefield at daybreak, while one Dutch sailor from the sinking fireship was taken as prisoner, and the Rosario lost 5 men. On July 31, 1646, around 2 o'clock p.m., the Spanish were able to catch up again with the Dutch squadron between the islands of Mindoro and Concepcion. The Spanish sensed that the Dutch were in a defensive position, so decided to exchange cannon fire at a distance. During most of the battle, in desperation, the Dutch finally sent their last fire ship, which was towed by Dutch launches and escorted by Dutch galleons. As the fire ship approached, General Aurelia Y. Ugalde would order the musketeers to fire at the launches, while the starboard guns of Encarnacion will fire at the side of the fire ship. In the end, it will lead to the fireworks to ignite and send it sinking to the bottom of the ocean. In rejoice of the sinking fire ship, the Spanish began shouting Ave Maria and Viva le Fe Cristo y la Virgen Santísima del Rosario. Around 6 o'clock p.m., the second Dutch squadron finally retreated, and General Aurelia Y. Ugalde fell to his knees before the image of Our Lady of the Rosary and gave thanks for the victory. Governor General Fajardo was delighted to hear the news and sent orders for the Spanish galleys to head to Cavite for repairs and rest. The latter will arrive in August, and as a fulfillment to their vow, all of the Spanish soldiers, together with their officers, marched barefoot to the Santo Domingo Church in Manila. General Aurelia Y. Ugalde was retired and gifted with one of the best economedia in the Philippines, while the other officers were promoted. After being victorious over the Dutch, the Spanish government decided to send a newly built galleon, the San Diego, to sail towards San Bernardino Strait and head to Mexico. General Cristobal Marquez de Valenzuela commanded the San Diego and was surprised when 3 Dutch ships from the 3rd Dutch Squadron stationed at Fortune Island. The Dutch corsairs noticed that the galleon was not a military ship and decided to attack the lone vessel. Luckily for the San Diego, it was able to get away and arrive in Mariveles to report back to Governor General Fajardo of the new Dutch presence. Seeing the danger of this threat, Fajardo decided to reorganize the Spanish fleet by adding the now armed San Diego, a galley, and 4 brigantines to reinforce the Encarnacion and Rosario. Sebastian Lopez was promoted to Commander-in-Chief and a commander of the Encarnacion, since Aurelia Y. Ugalde has already retired at this point. Former Sergeant Major Agustin de Cepeda was promoted to Admiral, commanding the Rosario. The galley was commanded by Captain Francisco de Estevar, which was armed with cannons amidships and several culverins. In addition, the 4 brigantines escorted the galley and each had a cannon on their prow. Before the Spanish headed to Fortune Island, Governor Fajardo ordered every man to renew their vow during their previous battles and continue reciting of the Holy Rosary falling before the image of Our Lady of Naval de Manila. In September 16, 1646, the Spanish left and arrived at Fortune Island, where they found no sight of the Dutch. So they sailed further to Mindoro, where they finally engaged the ships between the Ambil and Lubang Islands. Unfortunately for the Spanish, the wind were against their sails, so they bombarded the Dutch ships from a distance. Around 9 o'clock p.m., the Rosario was forced by the currents to a position where it was surrounded by the 3 Dutch ships, while the Encarnacion tried helping the Admiral's ship but had difficulty approaching it. In the next 4 hours, the Rosario fought adamantly until finally all Dutch ships were finally forced to retreat towards the shoal of Cape Calapite. In October 4, 1646, General Lopez found the San Diego incapable of traveling to Mexico, so ordered the whole Spanish fleet back towards the Mariveles and waited for new orders from Governor General Fajardo of the matter. The San Diego, together with the galley and 4 brigantines, were moored in the port of Mariveles, while the Encarnacion was anchored a few miles away at the mouth of Manila Bay. As for the Rosario, it was positioned 69 miles away from the flagship due to adverse currents pushing it further into the bay. 3 new Dutch ships from the 3rd Dutch Squadron composing the flagship, together with the galleon and a fireship, would notice the wide positioning of the Spanish ships and attack the lone Encarnacion at the entrance of Manila Bay. Lopez decided not to raise the anchor of the Encarnacion to prevent it from being pushed by the currents. Instead, loosened the cable with the buoys as the Dutch approached closer. When the Dutch were close enough to the point that the Dutch could ready themselves for a boarding action, Lopez ordered the anchors raised and the sails unfurled while using the cables on buoys to guide the ship. The Encarnacion engaged and exchanged the cannon fire with the 3 Dutch ships, forcing all 4 ships to be pushed away from the port of Mariveles. The Dutch were damaged severely, so tried to flee away, but the wind suddenly stopped, causing the galley under De Estevar to use its oars and attack the temporarily stopped Dutch flagship. The galley was able to fire fiercely into the Dutch flagship, probably closing the distance and using its low profile to avoid the heavy guns of the enemy galleon. When the wind finally returned, the Dutch ships finally retreated while the galley gave chase, yet it would lose track of the Dutch ships by nightfall. The galley lost no men, while the Encarnacion suffered 4 men killed. Here are the casualty count after the battles. The Dutch suffered around medium or heavy casualties while losing 2 fire ships, and it also has 3 severely damaged ships. The Spanish, on the other hand, had around 15 killed and probably having minor casualties on their side. They also have probably minor or medium damage on all of their ships. The Spanish fleet celebrated their victory in Manila, where the men renewed their vows by walking barefoot again in Santo Domingo Church. On January 20, 1647, the Spanish celebrated this victory again with a solemn feast, a parade, as well as a mass, where the men walk again barefoot in Santo Domingo Church. On April 6, 1647, a canonical investigation was conducted on the victories of 1646, which on April 9, 1952, the Archdiocese of Manila declared it a miracle. The Manila Government Council decided to create a vow where they will celebrate the solemnity of the naval victories each year every Sunday of October, which will be known as the Feast of Our Lady of Naval de Manila. Though the Dutch invasion failed, they would still conquer the whole southern region of Southeast Asia and created the colony of the Dutch East Indies, which lasted until 1949 when Indonesia finally gained independence from the Netherlands. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. That's all everyone, and see you in the next video.